Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Bass kick.
Think about it. 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 Think about it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, September 8th, 2025. We are here this afternoon for our land use hearing. I call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and with me are my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally and Commissioner John Kafalis. From the clerk's office today, we have Lindsay Jones. She'll be helping us with note-taking for this meeting. And from the county attorney's office, we have Frank Haug. I'm going to turn things over to our planning manager, Jenny Axmaker. She'll do some introductions and share some of our hearing procedure instructions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joining me at the dais, we have Laura Culleton and Samantha Lasher, both county planners. We also have Ryan Oswendell from our planning administration team. Across the way, we have our SIPR director, Leslie Ellis. We have Eric Tracy from our engineering department, as well as David Pringle from engineering, and Ashton Brodall from the health department. With that, I respectfully request that all members of the audience silence their electronic devices. Please help yourself to a copy of the agenda and hearing procedure instructions, which are located right here on the wall. If you're in the room or if you're joining us online, you can find those at larimer.gov/BOCC commissioners-meetings. Please wait to speak until you're recognized by the chair. Please maintain civility, refraining from audience applause, comments, or disruptions, whether positive or negative, and anyone who's disruptive during the hearing will be asked to leave. Please make all comments to the Board of County Commissioners from the podium. We do have a portable microphone available if needed. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and provide the spelling of your name if it's unique. Please speak directly into the microphone so that remote participants may hear. And the microphone on that podium can be repositioned to best capture your testimony. Questions may not be asked during testimony, but will not be answered until public comment is closed and rebuttal has begun. Upon request, we have assisted listening devices available for the hearing impaired. For those of you joining us on Zoom, attendees will be muted until they're recognized by the chair. If an online attendee wishes to speak or requests that a consent item be removed, please use the raise your hand function on the Zoom control bar or *9 on your phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. So now I'll review the agenda, both the items that are on consent and the items that are on public hearing, and we will go from there. So we have two items on the consent agenda. The first is a tabled item from August 25th, 2025. It's the Crystal Lakes Partial Right-of-Way Vacation, file number 25, Land 4499, and this is a proposal to vacate portions of rights-of-way that were dedicated to the public through lot consolidation plat amendments. And the second item on consent is the Larimer on the Move Transportation Plan. And then we have two items that are public hearing items. The first item is the Moore Appeal, file number 25, GNRL 0572. This is an appeal to Article 335B2CI of the Larimer Land Use Code for a proposed short-term rental in the Estes Valley to be less than 500 feet from an approved short-term rental. If the appeal is approved, the proposed short-term rental will require special review approval. And then the second item on the hearing agenda is the Bradbury short-term rental, file number 23, zone 3506. The applicant in this case requests administrative special review approval for a 4-bedroom, 8-guest short-term rental in existing single-unit residence. So folks understand items on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature, and as far as we know, there's no perceived or significant controversy. Items not on the consent agenda will not have a staff presentation, and the applicant will not speak, and there won't be an opportunity for public comment unless we pull those items from the consent agenda. Commissioners and the public are able to pull those items from the consent agenda. And so I'll ask the commissioners, would either of you like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Commissioner Kafalis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not wish to pull either item off of the consent agenda, but with your permission, I would like to speak to the Transportation Master Plan, the second consent agenda item.
Yes, that's fine. Would you like to speak now?
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
So this is our Larimer on the Move Transportation Master Plan that also includes what's referred to as the Safety Action Plan. And the first thing I would like to say is that very genuinely appreciate and am grateful to the staff, to our county engineering folks and others, county leadership, consultants, and everyone else that have worked tirelessly, thoughtfully, and intentionally to develop our updated transportation master plan. I really do mean that. Larimer on the Move. This will provide us with a comprehensive transportation infrastructure framework and vision for the next 25 years. Second point I wish to make is that it is important, in my opinion, to state that we are making these changes that are before us, these language changes, because we care. We care about all the people we serve and want to address our transportation needs throughout Larimer County, and certainly where transportation options are limited. Thirdly, thank you, Madam Chair, uh, calm leadership. Calm leadership requires us to learn how to navigate, adapt, and pivot during uncertain times while staying true to what is right, serving all members of the community with respect, humility, and love. Language matters, and we seek words that unify us rather than divide us. Actions matter, and we seek to understand the different needs in our community and to provide services accordingly so that everyone has a fair chance to succeed in life as it pertains to transportation and anything else we do around here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, I'd offer you the same opportunity to speak if you'd like.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's very kind. I appreciate the opportunity. I just want to again thank our consultants and Eric Tracy and Leslie Ellis and all of the folks who participated in our planning commission as well. All the stakeholders and municipalities, and a lot of input was provided, and I do believe that this is a actionable action plan that will be able to accomplish good things, and making sure that the whole county feels they are see themselves in this plan, and that we are being comprehensive for the whole county. And I do think that actions are what matter, and so we look to having a plan that is done well, and it comes from feedback and from feedback from our residents and our businesses and our partners, but also data oriented and data focused on safety. So I wanted to just add that. Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, my gratitude to everyone that has worked so hard, including our consultants. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would just say that I think we're all committed in having a transportation plan that works for all our residents, and a system that works especially for people who struggle with having their own single occupancy vehicle, their own transportation, that we are looking at ways to make a difference for everyone in our community. So with that, I just want to ask the public, is there anyone in the public that wants to remove this item, remove either one of these consent agenda items from our agenda? I don't see any hands raised. Ryan, is there anyone online?
If any members of the public online would like to remove one of these two items from the consent agenda, please use the raise your hand function or *9. We have no hands raised.
Thank you. So we will move on to adopting this agenda. And Commissioner Kafalis, I will ask you to make that motion, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the consent agenda subject to any conditions of approval as set out in the staff reports, and authorize the chair to sign any pertinent findings and resolution.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on these items? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. We will move on to our public hearing discussion items. For those items, just so folks understand how this procedure works, there'll be a presentation from staff, then an opportunity for the applicant to make their case. We give the applicant up to 10 minutes. Then there's an opportunity for public comment. If there is public comment, then the applicant is given 5 minutes for rebuttal. at any point, commissioners can ask questions of either the applicant or staff, and then at the end, we'll enter into deliberation and do our best to make an informed decision. We will begin with the Moore Appeal, file number 25 GNRL 0572. And it looks like Samantha Lasher, you'll be making the presentation. Perfect. We'll let you go ahead and do that then. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, my name is Samantha Lasher, and I'm a planner too with the county, and I will be presenting the Moore Appeal, file number 25 GNRL 0572. The subject property is located at 2220 Longview Drive in Estes Park, as you can see on the map, which is approximately 0.4 miles southeast of the intersection of Carriage Drive and South St. Vrain Avenue. The property owners are David and Tammy Moore, and they're here with us today in person. The property is just under a half an acre in size and is part of the amended plat of the Carriage Hills subdivision, fourth filing. The property is zoned Estes Valley Estate and currently contains a single-unit residence in which the property owners would like to also use as a short-term rental. The request before you all today is an appeal to Article 335B2CI of the Land Use Code, which is specifically stated below, for a proposed short-term rental in the Estes Valley to be less than 500 feet from an approved short-term rental. As you can see on the figure on the right, this is a snapshot from our approved lodging facilities map, which is available on our website. The orange circle represents the 500-foot buffer. The subject property is identified by the red pin, and you can see it's approximately 363 feet from a nearby approved short-term rental located at 2149 Fish Creek Road. So because this proposed short-term rental does not meet the standard, an appeal has been submitted. If this appeal is approved, the proposed short-term rental use would require separate approval through the special review process. I also wanted to provide some background information and timeline information as it relates to this case. So in 2016, the town of Estes Park established a short-term rental cap of 588 units. Fast forward to 2020, there was an existing IGA, or intergovernmental agreement, between the town of Estes Park and Larimer County. They ultimately chose not to renew that IGA, so as a result of that, Larimer County assumed jurisdiction over the area known as the Estes Valley, which is just outside of the town of Estes Park. And with that, the short-term rental cap was split between the two jurisdictions. So the county was given 266 STR licenses, essentially, and that cap was only applied to residential zoning districts within the Estes Valley. Then in June of 2021, the Moores purchased their property, and the county staff had created a short-term rental wait list, as we call it, because the short-term rental cap had been reached. So we added them to the wait list, and they're able to come off the wait list when a license became available. Fast forward 2 years, in June 2023, updated short-term rental regulations were adopted, including this 500-foot buffer standard that we're talking about today. And the purpose of this standard was essentially to reduce the density of short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods, to help maintain neighborhood character, and to help maintain and promote long-term housing availability. And then 2 years later, in May of 2025, a license became available and the Moores were able to come off of the wait list to apply for a short-term rental. Staff notified them that they did not meet this specific standard and appeal was required, so they subsequently applied for this appeal in June. This application was referred to 53 surrounding property owners and residents within 500 feet of the subject property. To date, 14 community members, including the Carriage Hills Homeowners Association, have provided comments either in opposition to or with questions about the proposal. These comments are scattered across 3 different documents, so they're included in Attachment D of the packet. They're also included within the memo that was sent to you all earlier today via email, and then one came in just recently that we printed off and provided to you as well. Various referral agencies were also referred this application. Larimer County Building, Code Compliance, Engineering, including the Flood Department, and the Health and Environment were notified and provided comments. They ultimately did not have concerns with the appeal. The town of Estes Park was also referred this application but did not provide comments. In addition, when considering whether to approve an appeal to deviate from standards of this code, the county commissioners must consider the following 5 criteria, as seen on the screen, found in Article 672B5 of the Land Use Code. Ultimately, staff has determined that 3 out of the 5 criteria have not been met, which is addressed in detail in the staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions on. And because of that, the appeal is not supported by the Development Services team, and ultimately staff recommends denial of the Moore appeal application. We do have a suggested motion on screen for the county commissioners to consider, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Any questions for Samantha before we move on to the applicant? All right, I ask the applicants to come forward. Is it David and Tammy Moore? And as a reminder, just we'll have you introduce yourselves, and we'll give you up to 10 minutes to speak if you'd like.
I kind of feel like performing it around. Hi, I'm Dave Moore, and this is my wife Tammy. We appreciate the time today to go over this. As Samantha said, we bought the house in 2021. We had looked for several years, and the plan was always to do a short-term rental. We had a local realtor. She couldn't be here today due to a closing, but we would find a house. I'd see it on Zillow. She'd go, nope, the HOA doesn't allow short-term rentals. So we had to look long and hard to find kind of what we were looking for. This one was, we finally found it and put an offer in, and the day we closed, I called on June 7th. So we closed that day, and I called to get our name on the wait list. Hindsight, I wish I would have called maybe the day they accepted the offer to circumvent some of this. I don't know. So as I said, the HOA, as far as I know, does not say anything about not supporting short-term rentals. So for them to write that letter in opposition probably goes against their bylaws. I don't know for sure. In 23, when the new rules were coming out, I have a cousin that lives here in Fort Collins. She was sending me the news articles. And I thought, that's not a problem to me. I'm going to abide by all the rules because the 4 years that we've owned the house, we come out at least once a month. So we use the house. And my street had not changed. So I thought, well, there's no short-term rentals as far as I knew on the street. And so we abide by that. I'd make periodic calls about the list to see how far we were down. And going back to 2021, we were told it would probably take about a year to get the short-term rental license. I don't know from whom. I didn't keep track of who I'd talked to, but we thought, well, that's great. The house needs some projects. Then we can do the short-term rental. And we have a short time frame that we were going to do short-term rental because we probably are going to live there full-time coming up in the next probably 6 years. Then when Samantha called and says we made it to the top of the list, we were pretty excited after waiting, 4 years instead of 1 year. Then she said, oh, by the way, we have a short-term rental within 500 feet. You don't qualify. We had to do our own investigation to where it was. We must have the quietest short-term rental within 500 feet because I didn't even know it was a short-term rental. That's how removed Fall River Road is from our property. So, when you talk about the argument on the 500 feet, as a crow's flies, I don't understand why that's 500 feet down the same road, but that's what it is. Based on the neighbors' comments, I think any short-term rental is going to have tough getting in with any neighborhood. Based on the comments, it's like trying to teach your kids not to use the word always and never. I'll guarantee not every renter has a loud party or breaks every rule, but that's what every comment focuses on. Having owned the house since 2021, we've had 3 direct neighbors. 2 of the neighbors have had our phone number shortly after we moved in. They did not write letters of opposition. They did not write letters of support, but they've known our plan for that many years. Like I said, I understand the arguments in the letters, and for someone like us we've rented several houses in Estes Park, we've stayed there. I've been coming since I was a little kid. So having the goal here, so we'll have to make a decision on whether we, continue to own the house if this doesn't go through, or what we're going to do. But thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Dave. Anything else? Tammy, is there anything you want to say? Okay.
No.
All right. Any questions for the applicants before we let them sit down? Okay, I think we're good.
Yep.
If we have any questions, we'll call you back if that's all right. So we will move on to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wanted to give public comment on this item? Please come forward then. Oh, all right. We'll have the gentleman in the yellow shirt and the gentleman in the blue shirt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay? All right. My name is Jeffrey Arnold, and I live at 2251 Longview Drive, just up the street a little bit on the other side of the road. My concern is that Estes Park is slowly dying because we're not getting young families in anymore. I sent in a comment that you may have in your packet somewhere, and I wish I could remember the data I gave you, the numbers. But essentially, according to the census from 2020, from 2000 to 2020, the number of people that were aged essentially 0 to 64 declined, while those 65 and older increased by over 9%. My concern is that we keep selling houses to retired people, which I don't have a problem with. But when you keep adding in short-term rentals, those are houses that can't be used or can't be purchased by small families, young families, I mean. It's a number of people in town, the business owners will complain about they can't get workers because those people have been priced out. I was a school teacher, and every year we were losing students because their family could no longer afford to live in the homes they were in because the landlords were trying to turn them into short-term rentals or jacking up the prices very high. So we lost a lot of people in the process, and that's what I'm concerned about, is we're going to keep going to the point where we don't have enough workers. I personally know some business owners in town that have shortened their business hours, have had reduced some services because they just don't have the people to work. Because retired people don't want to work. That's the reason they're retired, or at least one of the reasons I'm retired. And so it's hard for me to look at this house, which is a nice house. I think it'd be perfect for a family. And if the Moores ultimately decide to sell it, I hope a young family can get it. The house behind mine just sold to a young couple with 2 little kids. And that's great. I love hearing those little kids out there playing in the yard. But to me, that's what Estes Park needs more than more short-term rentals.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Appreciate your comments. And we'll have the next speaker come up, please. Hello, we'll have you state your name and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Just 3?
Just 3.
My name is William Sitta, Citta. I live at 2210 Longview Drive. I'm the next door neighbor to the Moores. My property borders on 2149 Fish Creek Road. And they border the other side of my property. And the distance between those two rentals is approximately 100 to 120 feet, because the property on 2210 Fish Creek Road extends to the power pole toward my house. We share a common corner. And so I am opposed to their appeal. I called the board of the tax board for Larimer County. They said that there's a good chance that being sandwiched between two short-term rentals may lower my property values. And also, they, if I understand the amendments of 2023, they also have to have a property manager for the property. And either that or they have to manage the property, and they have to live within 1 hour's drive of that property in Estes Park. So, and who's ever managing it is not taking care of the property. This is photographic evidence. The left side is my property. The right side is 2220 Longview Drive. And it's full of weeds and infestations. If they bought it in 2021, they haven't raised a finger to take care of the property, whether it's them or if they've hired a managing team to take care of it. Either one has not taken care of it. With permission, I'd like to hand this to the county attorney.
Yeah, that's fine.
I base my measurements off of Google Maps because the property at 2149 Fish Creek Road is not just the house, it's the land around the house. And like I said, we share a common corner.
And your time is up. 3 minutes goes quickly. Thank you. We did receive the written comments that people have spoken about. Is there somebody else that wants to speak? Yeah, please come forward.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. My name is Bob Levitt, and I live at 740 Ramshorn Drive in Carriage Hills. I'm here representing the Carriage Hills Board, Property Owners Association Board. Our board strongly opposes this appeal of the 500-foot limit. The 500-foot limit was added to the development code to limit the density of short-term rentals in residential zones. It was added precisely for this type of situation. Carriage Hills already has 34 short-term rentals based on a recent map. Many are located in clusters, such as a group of 10 in southern Carriage Hills. This intensifies the noise, traffic, and parking problems. Short-term rentals tend to attract others to locate nearby. When this happens, the neighborhood effectively transitions to an accommodation zone. In essence, this is why the 500-foot limit is needed. As far as we can tell, this is the first appeal of the 500-foot limit in Larimer County. If you approve it, it opens the door for other similar appeals in Carriage Hills and throughout unincorporated Larimer County. This is a dangerous precedent, a path you do not want to go down. We also support the staff report that states the appeal does not meet 3 of the 5 conditions for approval. Estes Valley has a serious shortage of workforce housing. If this property were to become a long-term rental, It could be a home for a family searching for housing. We strongly urge you to deny this appeal of the 500-foot limit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levitt. Is there anyone else in the audience who wanted to speak on this item? I don't see any hands raised. Ryan, can you just double check online?
If there are any members of the public online who would like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand function now. We have no hands raised.
Okay, then we will close public comment and give the opportunity for Dave and Tammy to rebut anything you heard. If you want to, you would have 5 minutes to address what you heard in the room, if you would like to.
A big part of me agrees with what she just said with the can of worms. We kind of knew what we were up against today, so there's no hard feelings with any of this. We appreciate your time. Housing. Any tourist town, you go from Branson, Missouri to Estes Park. Worker housing is a difficult thing. Us keeping this house is not going to let a family enjoy it, because we're going to continue to enjoy it if that's what we decide to do. But I just want to say thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add something real
Yeah,
quickly.
please go ahead.
From my understanding is the grass you're able to, you can either mow it and keep it, or you can let it grow to look natural. We had chosen to let our grass grow naturally and not mow it or weed eat it or anything. So unfortunately, the neighbor Will thinks that it is weedy and infested with I'm not sure what, but that was our choice not to mow it at all, and just let everything grow naturally and look natural. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I guess, again, with the property management, we don't have a short-term rental. I don't need a property manager at this point. Ironically, the neighbor who's just moved in across the way is a property manager for Sky Run. And so he's taken a look at all this document and said, well, you got a long road. And I said, yeah. But he was looking forward to living across the street and managing the property. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David Tam. Appreciate that. All right, bring it back to the commissioners. Any questions for staff or the applicant? Go ahead, Commissioner Kafalis.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a question for staff. It's probably an easy question. I wonder if you could confirm the accuracy of the statement regarding this being the first appeal to the, since we implemented the 500-foot separator buffer limit.
Yes, this is the first appeal to be submitted to the standard.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. All right, any questions, Commissioner? No? All right, Commissioner Shattuck McNally, I'll let you start deliberations then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the applicants for being here, and thanks to all of the members, residents of Carriage Hills that came all the way down to be here in person today. We appreciate your time and your travel. This is the first appeal that we have of this standard for the new short-term rental licensure, and one of the reasons this was so worked on and complicated was because of the density in areas such as Carriage Hills. And there is a cluster of about 10 homes, and they're all next to each other. And we have a resident, I think, in that area that was a little area. They're the only one is they have no neighbors. They're all short-term rentals around them. So it is a concern, and there's a reason to have that 500-foot density, because it does have impacts on the residents and people living in residential neighborhoods. I've had just recently a couple of folks in Estes Park there, and the short-term rental next to them was a party, kept them up all night. So I do think it's important to think about these things. I agree with the staff recommendations. I do think that this with item number A, that, let's see, Article 6.7.2B5, that, that this has not been met. Item A and B has not been met, and also I agree with staff that criterion E has not been met. And for that, following our land use code and recommendations from the our development service teams, I cannot support this application and will not be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kafales.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Again, gratitude to everyone who participates in these land use hearings, who takes the time to be here in person or via Zoom, the Zoom platform, or by telephone. I will concur with Commissioner Shattuck McNally to support the recommendation of denial regarding this appeal. I appreciate that the homeowners have acknowledged that the topography might create a bit of a buffer there with trees and ravines, but in the end, the most compelling review criterion is that A, which is approval of the appeal, will not subvert the purpose of the standard or requirement. And when we put these in place, the intent was to ensure that the density was compatible with the neighborhood. And we're seeing in Carriage Hills, the point was made about short-term rentals being clustered and kind of all packed in certain parts of the subdivision or the neighborhood. So the intent was to address the density issues, especially in residential neighborhoods. And it is a real issue that the more homes that are converted to short-term rentals, the less homes there are for long-term rentals or perhaps home ownership opportunities. Therefore, I will again support the recommendation of staff, which is to deny the appeal. And I'm sorry to the homeowners. It's always a struggle, frankly, for me, the balance between property rights and neighborhood compatibility. But in this case, I believe it's clear that 3 out of the 5 criteria have not been met, and therefore that is what informs my decision.
Thank you, Commissioner. I also will not be supporting this appeal. Thank the homeowners for coming out, and thank everybody who came to speak. I know you had to come a long way. We put these in place because we didn't want areas. We definitely heard from the public as we were revising these regulations that folks did not want the kind of density that they were sometimes seeing in different neighborhoods, and so the 500 feet was something that we had even contemplated even more feet, but 500 feet is what we kind of came down to after hearing from the public, that would be a acceptable kind of distance between short-term rentals. So that was Article 7 to B5 subsection A. The appeal does subvert the code as was intended. And like I said, we were very thoughtful when creating that code. It doesn't appear that the appeal follows subsection B2, which is detrimental to public safety, health, or property values. We at least had one person come forward and say that they felt like it would not be good for their property values. And finally, it does not meet the subsection E. It is not consistent with the intent and the purpose of the code, which was to really try to make sure that, not to get rid of short-term rentals, but make sure that they weren't, there was not so much density of those short-term rentals in single-family neighborhoods. There again, a lot of thought and public input was given to this code, and so to me, I have no intention of trying to subvert this code or go against the code that we worked on just recently. So I will ask Commissioner Shattuck McNally to make a motion on this item.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of County Commissioners deny the Moore Appeal file number 25-GNRL 0572.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? I will just say for the other items that were mentioned, that is not something that we're considering in this, in this motion. So whether it's, how the yard is kept or not kept was not, a determinant in this. That's something that needs to be worked out through the neighbors. So, and we don't enforce any sort of HOA covenants, but we do enforce our own codes. So with that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. So we'll move on to our next item. And our next item is the Bradbury short-term rental, and this is the applicants requesting administrative special review approval for a 4-bedroom, 8-guest short-term rental in an existing single-unit residence. And is Laura Culleton. Laura is doing the presentation, so Laura, we will have you proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Culleton. I'll be presenting the Bradbury short-term rental, file number 23 Zone 3506. The property is located at 5111 East Highway 36 in Estes Park. This is about 4.5 miles southeast of downtown Estes Park. The applicant and property owner are requesting approval of an administrative special review to convert the existing single-family residence into a short-term rental with 4 bedrooms for a maximum occupancy of 8 guests at any given time. The property owner and applicant is Danielle Bradbury. The property is zoned open. The lot is 20 acres in size and is serviced by an on-site well, on-site septic system, and the property is accessed via a private access easement from Highway 36. And the Estes Valley Fire Protection District services the area. So this application was submitted on May 31st of 2023, which was prior to the current regulations going into effect. Therefore, approval of a short-term rental with less than 10 occupants required administrative special review in the O Open Zone District. And a short-term rental is classified as a commercial lodging facility, which is a commercial use in the zone district. On March 27th of 2024, county staff mailed 11 postcards of the proposed project to properties within 500 feet, and we did not receive any neighbor comments. Referral agency comments were received from the Division of Water Resources, the Estes Valley Fire Protection District, Larimer County Building Division, Code Compliance Division, Engineering Department, Health Department, and the Sheriff's Office. All referral agency comments have been addressed except for the Estes Valley Fire Protection District comments. This district requested that the applicant install fire sprinklers within the home due to the district's concerns regarding access to the property. The applicant has indicated that they are not willing to install the fire sprinklers. This is the general review criteria for an administrative special review application, which I can come back to if needed. And then these are the standards for short-term rentals from the previous regulations. And referral to the Board of County Commissioners. The Administrative Special Review process authorizes the Director to approve applications with when all criteria has been met. And if the Director determines that the application is unusually complex or raises potentially unique or serious impacts on the county, the Director can refer the application to the Board of County Commissioners for a decision, which is why we are here today. Staff have found that the proposed 8-guest short-term rental does not meet the applicable review criteria for approval, specifically 643D2 and 643D3 have not been met, as the applicant indicated they are not willing to install fire sprinklers in the home. All other applicable review criteria has been or will be met. Therefore, staff recommends denial of this application. However, staff could support approval of the request if the applicants were to install the fire sprinklers in the home to the satisfaction of the Estes Valley Fire Protection District. And I have a motion here recommending denial for the commissioners when we're ready. And I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions for Laura? Questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Kafales.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Laura. Could you say a little bit more about the rationale for the Estes Valley Fire Protection District, why they're requiring fire sprinklers be installed?
Yes. So Stacy Sutherland conducted an on-site inspection, and she found the property rather difficult to access via the access easement and road leading up to the property. And she had concerns about the time it would take for the fire engine to reach the property, and therefore wanted to require fire sprinklers as a safety measure for protecting the habitants of the home. And I also have Eric Freed in the audience here, who's here for questions about the technicality of fire sprinklers also, if you have any like building related questions to that.
Thank you, Laura.
Please go
That's
ahead.
helpful. Isn't it also correct that there was something about water pressure is such that a fire hydrant could not be close enough that would help allay any concerns about fires?
Yes, that's also correct. There's not a public water provider for this property, so it's just an on-site well, and there's not a fire hydrant on the property.
One last question, please. And I thought I read in the report, and this might be a question for David. There was something about the road, and in terms of access, that it crossed a particular private property, and that would need to be addressed. Could someone speak?
Yeah, I can. So the applicants own the property just below, which touches Highway 36. So they have a private access easement on their own property, essentially, but it's two separate parcels, which I can show a map too. That kind of helps show that a little better.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah.
No problem. So this highlighted blue property is the one with the home. The applicant also owns this property below, which is how the access is taken off of Highway 36. So there's an access easement leading up to the property. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Shannon McNally, you didn't have any questions? Okay. I don't have any questions at this time either, so I'll ask the applicant, is it Danielle Bradbury? I'll ask you to come up and introduce yourself, and you'll have 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner and Commissioners. So when we bought the house back in 2022, this was a vacation home for us. But since then, I've actually taken a job here in Colorado, and I'm here more than 50% of the time. But because I'm not here 100% of the time, the short-term rental remains important to us. But this is our community, and we want to be part of this community. We started the short-term rental process, as Laura mentioned, back in May of 2023. We worked through the life safety process, addressing all of the different concerns. We worked very carefully with a wildfire team to address their concerns. We cut down over 50 trees on our property and removed over 15 junipers on the property. We take wildfire very seriously. For my company, I manage insurance, and so it's very, very important to me. We have actually worked to clear multiple swaths up near the house that provide a fire break, and we keep our front acreage mowed below 8 inches to make sure that, again, we're providing some fire break for the community. We have also gotten a lot of our neighbors, since we all do back up to the National Forest, focused on wildfire mitigation, and so many of us are starting to work on that. After clearing all of these hurdles, I'll be honest with you, we were very surprised by the comments that we got from the fire department. There was nothing in our original permitting for our home or in any of the diligence that we were able to do when we bought the home to indicate that there would be any concerns with the fire department. When we look at the concerns that the fire department raised, they raised concerns about access. And on the first page here, I show the elevation map. We travel about a mile up the driveway. It has about a 10-degree slope. So that's very consistent with many of the roads in the Estes Valley. We do have a total of 3 letters from service providers that we've included in the package for you. The first is from our snowplow service, and that letter addresses the turning radiuses on the driveway, the width of the driveway, and really addresses the ability to turn around and access the property up at the top. Then we've got 2 additional notes, one from our longtime propane service provider who regularly brings a propane truck up the driveway and services the home with propane deliveries. And then finally, we have a note from our roofing contractor who brought both a 1-ton truck and large dump trailer when we redid our roof, as well as a 24-foot crane truck that brought the shingles and delivered them to our home. So we regularly get deliveries up this driveway, and we were really quite candidly surprised that this road is being treated differently than many of the roads in town. This road doesn't really look any different than roads in Wincliffe or any of the other neighborhoods in the Estes Valley. If there had been specific concerns addressed in the fire report about a specific curve on the driveway or a specific area where the pitch was too much, we would have happily addressed those. But there isn't any specific site reference. Even when there's comments about the steepness of the driveway, it's zoomed in so tightly you can't really see where they're making those comments. But this year alone, we do continuous maintenance on our road. We reblade it every 2 months. And we have brought in no less than 75 tons of rock this year to improve the quality of the drive. So we're really working very hard on this. The fire department report is from 18 months ago. We've removed a lot more trees down on the lower parts of the driveway, other than those within that 100-foot zone that we cleared for wildfire. Some additional comments that the fire department made were about a lock on the gate. We have removed that. They also, as I mentioned, addressed turning area up at the top of the drive near the home, and both the Estes Park letter as well as the roofing contractor mentioned how they were able to turn around large vehicles up there. We've removed all the junipers near the home, which was another concern that was raised. Sprinklers were the only solution that the fire department has been willing to consider, and it's really not consistent with building code. The home has all of the appropriate fire mitigations that any other home in the Estes Valley has. We have 4 inside fire extinguishers, 2 on the exterior of the home, 1 in the garage that a short-term rental customer would not even have access to. We have all the appropriate egress maps and smoke detectors. There's nothing complicated about exiting our home. There's 3 doors on the first floor, all in different directions, and 8 egress windows on the first floor and 9 egress windows on the second floor. So very easy to egress, and in no case is there more than probably 25 feet of distance that someone would have to travel to leave the home. The time, and we've included several slides. We've got 15 different comparables that we've all worked up in Apple Maps, showing how long it takes to get from the fire department locations to various short-term rentals in the Estes Valley. And the average of a lot of these rentals is 10 to 14 minutes. There are certainly some that they can get to faster, but our home is not really any different than any of the other rentals in the Estes Valley. And I will tell you, the only home that had the sprinklers suggested was a home on 56 Big Pine, but it was not required for that home. There are homes that are further away, some of them permitted earlier, that don't require any type of additional fire mitigation. We have tried to talk to the fire department and come up with some other solutions. I'll be honest with you, sprinklers are going to cost $50,000 to $100,000 for us to install, and that, unfortunately for us, is just an egregious expense. We've called 5 different companies trying to get quotes. They've told us it will be $10 to $20 a square foot, likely because we do have some wood surfaces on our first floor that we would end up being closer to that $20 a square foot. But we have not yet been able to get a quote, but most of the sprinkler companies have told us that often with sprinklers, the most of the time that the sprinklers actually discharge is because of a malfunction, or they're set off accidentally, not because they were actually needed to suppress an actual fire. As I mentioned, I do manage insurance, including wildfire, for my corporate entity, and insurers are very focused today on the home side on water claims as well as wildfire claims. And it's already hard enough to get insurance for my home, and if I'm forced to install an aftermarket sprinkler, I'm very concerned that I would lose my homeowner's insurance because they are so worried about water damage, or in this case, potentially like an antifreeze type solution damage. We have been more than willing to discuss adding additional hydrants or other water storage on site. And unfortunately, the fire department has not been willing to have any conversations or entertain any appeals with us on this. And this is why we had asked for an appeal today, just because we have really felt singled out and treated differently than every other home in the Estes Valley. We can't find a single reference where there's been a short-term rental permit where sprinklers have been required. So we're requesting to be treated similarly to every other home in the valley and be allowed to proceed with our short-term rental without the sprinklers. Like I said, we're happy to do some additional mitigation if the fire department can come up with some other reasonable solutions for us. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Cavallis, any questions for the applicant?
Well, yes, thank you, Danielle. Do you have any, that was one of my questions which you've answered, and that is, have you made efforts to speak with the fire department folks? And they seem to be very adamant about this requirement. Have you met with them on various occasions? They have not changed their position. Have they explained the logic behind requiring fire sprinklers and not looking at some other ways to address the concerns?
They've really said when we met with them, so we've called them several times and we've met with them in person. Unfortunately, what they've told us is basically that the sprinklers are needed for people to be able to leave the home, which I personally don't believe, because it's really easy to leave the home. And so we have struggled with that. In their report, they mentioned, it would certainly give them a head start if the sprinklers were on and working in the home, if there was an actual fire, for them to be able to get to the home. There are rentals, however, in my packet, that are a mile or more further down 36 South that have similar access times. And so, again, we really feel very singled out and treated very differently because we mapped it from, the fire department and all the way up to the house.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any questions at this time, but thank you, and we'll have you take your seat. And then let's see if there's any public comment on this item. Is there anyone, there's not many people here, is there anyone in the public who wanted to give comment on this item? Is there, Ryan, can you check if there's anyone online who wants to give public comment?
We do have one member of the public online with their hand raised.
Okay, we'll go to that person then.
I'm going to mispronounce this, I'm sorry. Yash Sabar, you have permission to speak. Please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. I am part of the Blood, Sweat, and Tears on that property, and
I apologize, sir. You got really, really quiet. Can you try to speak up?
Certainly. Is that better?
A little bit. Any louder?
Yeah. Does that help, perhaps? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's a little better, sir. We apologize.
Okay. I wanted to thank everybody first and introduce myself. I'm Yash Spar. I'm part of the Blood, Sweat, and Tears at the property. And we've done quite a bit, and I'll tell you, in our interactions with everybody, from the county to the fire department, we're dealing with people who are our neighbors, and so we were hoping to be able to come up with some other solution because we just couldn't come to agreement with the need for the sprinklers, especially in the case of egress. I would actually argue that sprinklers may interfere with egress. Adding antifreeze and water to hardwood floors generally is going to make things slippery. I think that everything we've done so far is in the interest of protecting ourselves first, because the house is used by us, our family members, our neighbors, and our guests, which I consider to be friends and family as well. We've done everything we can do to make it really safe, and we're looking for, if there's another solution, we were looking for that with the fire department, but had not been able to reach it. We're concerned with not only the expense of the installation of the sprinkler system, but that it's against a building code that doesn't mandate the installation of sprinklers. So the county's adopted building code does not require the installation of sprinklers in retrofits. So we're being asked to do something that is a violation of building code. And I wanted to bring that point up. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Yash. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else online who wanted to speak?
If there are any other members of the public online who would like to speak on this item, please use the raise your hand function. We don't have any hand raised.
Okay, then we'll close public comment. Since there was no one opposed to the public comment, there's not a need for any rebuttal. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I was going to note it. I'm not sure, but it sounded like this speaker was maybe part of the applicant, or I don't know if he's related to them or not. I don't know that it really matters. I just wanted to note that for the record, but
yeah, thank you.
I'm not sure it makes a whole lot of difference.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was somebody who had worked on the property or was a relation, but thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, so we will bring it back to the commissioners for any further questions before deliberation. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
I was hoping I could ask the chief building official, hope maybe one of the last time in his career, a question from me. The person related to the applicant was online, said that they're being asked to do something against our building code by adding the sprinklers. Can you expand on that? Can you help me understand that?
It's not, I know what they mean. It's beyond the building code because the building code would not require a sprinkler in this case. It's not against the building code. You can put a sprinkler in a building that's not required if you choose to. Sometimes in commercial situations, you might change the occupancy enough to go put a sprinkler in because it's more hazardous. But we only require sprinklers in newly constructed short-term rentals in the 21 code, or a newly constructed house that becomes a short-term rental. So that's why it wasn't my requirement in my review.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't aware. I was trying to scratch my head thinking where it was against the code, but I appreciate your time answering my question. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Fallis might have a question for you as well. We might keep you up here for a minute.
Yeah. Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, Eric. Can you, in addition to what your response to Commissioner Shattuck McNally, can you provide any additional information about the requirement that the referring agency has made for spring? I mean, they're just really adamant about this, and I wonder if objective information that you might be able to add to help inform our decision.
I mean, I can try. I haven't had any specific discussions with the Estes Valley Fire Protection District. I don't think it's so much just the amount of time from the fire station to the house. My understanding was they were concerned with the access. The driveway itself is very long. They couldn't turn around easily with their fire truck. they usually won't send a full-size fire engine for a case like this. They might send a wildland fire tent or something smaller. But in their opinion, the access was so bad because of either the surface or the slope or being able to turn around that they felt like they could not provide fire protection services, and therefore they wanted a sprinkler system in the house.
So that if a fire did occur and it activated the sprinkler system, that would give them more time to access that road and respond to the structure fire?
Well, the theory of a residential fire sprinkler is it's not designed to protect the property so much as to slow the fire down and give the applicants time to get out. And there was some discussion of whether that makes it worse because there's water on the floor. We think of worst case scenario. So let's assume people are, it's the middle of the night, they're asleep and a fire starts because there's a short or kitchen fire. So the sprinkler system should knock the fire down enough to where the smoke detectors go off, people have a chance to get out. And that's really all the fire department's looking for, is can people get out in time. And so that's why they want a sprinkler. If I could add one other thing. Homes don't require sprinklers except newly built homes, as you've approved in Estes Valley and Lyons Fire District. But when we change the use of a home to a short-term rental, that's now considered more of a development review, which is why the fire service was involved. And so sometimes when you change the occupancy to something more hazardous, that's when a sprinkler does become required, even if it wasn't required for the home itself.
Thank you, Commissioners. Any further questions?
I do not. Thank you, Eric.
I just have one question for you, Eric. Were those costs sound what the costs usually would be for a sprinkler system in a house? Or do you have any knowledge
I've seen general costs, but they've done specific cost analysis. So if they've actually asked someone to give them a recommendation and a quote, then I assume that that's what the cost is.
Would you imagine that people might lose their insurance if they had that because of the damage that would cause to the house? Have you heard anything like that before?
I don't know. The insurance in the Colorado market is increasingly difficult, and a lot of companies are pulling out. Now they've started asking whether the home has a furnace in it or just a wood stove, and if it's occupied year round. So I find it's conceivable that an insurance company would say, but normally they would like there to be a sprinkler system because that's going to protect their investment.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I have anything else. Anyone have anything else? No.
Madam Chair, I have one thing to add. Thank you, Eric, for joining. We also did request attendance from the Estes Valley Fire Department. They indicated they would be able to attend, but I'm not seeing them online. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, Laura. That's helpful. All right. Any further questions of staff or applicants before we move into deliberation? No. Commissioner Cavallis?
Yes. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
I'll do my best. So, let's see. Actually, appreciate your comment just now, Laura. It would have been very helpful to have the Fire Protection District folks here to help us better understand their position. And I can certainly understand the perspective of the homeowners of Danielle that it's cost prohibitive to install fire sprinklers. I'm afraid, I'm sorry, but it comes down to these review criteria that we have to follow. And number two, and number three have not been met. Number three referring to the recommendations or the requirements as a condition from the referring agency, the Fire Protection District, about the sprinklers. And number two having to do with, related to that as well. So I'm sorry that I cannot support this special review short-term rental application.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you all for being here today and for sharing the photos and the testimony. We also agree. I agree with Commissioner Gonzalez. We have to follow the review criteria, and I have great concerns. I definitely do not think the criteria number two has not been met, about impacts on environment, wildlife, access, traffic, emergency services, utilities, and so on. I think that they have not been adequately addressed or mitigated. You can mitigate the property, but also they're boarding the U.S. Forest Service, and I believe without sprinklers or even it's important for human life, but also it could spark a wildfire, which would endanger hundreds of people in the valley because we are in high risk and high risk wildfire conditions. I also I was reading through the Estes Fire Department report and looking at the thoroughness they had of all the grades and the degrees and the changes, and it was talking about the non-existent water supply and a lot of things. So I really feel I cannot support this application or the appeal because definitely for area items number 2 and 3, and I hold grave concerns about the welfare risk or accessibility with the change of use for a short-term rental. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I can't support the short-term rental here because it doesn't meet 2 of our review criteria, which the other commissioners have already stated. And then, as Commissioner Shattuck McNally stated, the fire service said that the grades were from 13 to almost 20% on the gravel road. A standard fire engine will not make it up the access road. The turnaround on the property is also not adequate. No hydrant access or water at property to draw from. And, it was unfortunate that they weren't here, but also, and I appreciate the work, Danielle, that you've done on the property to make it safer. But they are still needing to see the sprinklers, and they do not feel like they could adequately protect the folks in the short-term rental without that. And that gives us pause, and it goes against our code. Frankly, people who are in a new environment in a short-term rental that they've only maybe been in one night or a couple nights don't, it's hard to think about in the dark potentially where an exit might be. It's not the same as people who live there long-term getting out of that property. And I think that's therein lies the concern of the fire department to protect those folks. And so I can't support this, but I appreciate the work that you've done. And certainly it sounds like staff would be supportive if you came back and added those sprinklers. So you're welcome to to do that if that might work for you in the future. So with that, I will ask Commissioner Kafalis to make the motion on this.
Yes, I can do that. I move that the Board of County Commissioners deny the Bradbury short-term rental file number 23-zone 3506.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. That is all the business to come before this board today. And so at 4:14, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.